So, what is the plan for today in case you just stumbled in here and thought, hey, we're playing some Satisfactory, Factorio, Dyson Sphere program, something? We are probably not going to play any games today, except sort of silly games, chat games. The idea is just we'll just have a bit of a chat about sort of random things that you guys have been asking in the YouTube video, and also whatever is on your mind in here, and we'll just basically talk about sort of the hopefully something that's going to be slightly interesting or maybe not. And I think I'll go for an hour, maybe 2 hours, depending on how we proceed. If there's anything interesting, something that gets into topics, and I think it's it'll basically be like I've taken notes of a lot of questions, and I'll just sort of read them aloud, and then I will try to answer them, and then you can sort of follow up on this, and then we'll move on to some other topic. And I've kind of a bit tried to sort of group them together. There's a lot of things about sort of games and then sort of content creation in general, so I think that I'll try to do some of those content creation questions, group that up, and then maybe some more gaming related questions later on. But Freak was asking, do you get nervous before you start your streams? And it kind of ties in with one of the other questions that I got, and the answer is obviously, well, not obviously, is no. So next question. No, it's something that I remember hearing a lot of other content creators getting nervous, like, oh, the jitter before hitting the go live button. And I think I know why some people get nervous and I don't. First of all, I have no problem speaking to a crowd, even though the crowd is a camera. But on the other hand, I think it's also very much because what you see is what you get. So it's not like I need to sort of hype myself up to be someone I'm not when I'm on stream, and because of that, it's not like I put on a show. So it's just me, and therefore it's not going to be so much pressure, because I am who I am. So if you like it, you like it, or if you don't, you don't. So I think that's a big part of it, and also the big part of why some people get nervous, because they have an act or they have a persona, and if you have that, then it's more feels like going on stage and less feels like having a conversation. And I think that it's just more healthy if you have it as a conversation part. So that's why I don't get nervous, and I never have. No, I there have been some cases where I'm like, okay, this is like when I got some promotion for Twitch and knew there were going to be 1,000 people. It doesn't make a difference. There's no. It's literally the only thing I can see is like I can see a number that's different and maybe some more activity in the chat, but that's aside from that, there's no difference. And if you are nervous about it, then don't look at your stream numbers, because that can maybe get you sort of throw you off. Okay, so I want to answer the question that is on the screen right now, because I think it's kind of related to the question I answered before about sort of why I don't get nervous, and it's the difference between my persona, or the who I am when doing live content versus when doing YouTube content. And of course, I deliberately do things differently, because first of all, there's this ugly mug, there's a camera on Twitch, and that means it's just more personal. So there will be, I want to give something more personal here, and while on YouTube I keep it strictly to the focus on the game with very little sort of personal parts in it, because it's very hard to relate to just a disembodied voice and that telling stories, and it just doesn't make sense for me. So what the stuff I do on YouTube is focused on the video, the content, not on me. And therefore there's no camera, and therefore there is no sort of random ramblings about personal life and experience and going off on tangents. I save that for the live streams, and I give a bit more of myself, so that it's also more of a personal relation, so we can talk about all sorts of weird things. And it's a deliberate thing, and it's a conscious effort, because I don't feel that it belongs in a YouTube video. I want the YouTube video to be something like you want to watch that video because you want to get some specific information or entertainment or something like that that has a specific purpose, while live stream is, again, much more of a conversation, and therefore I try to keep it more as a conversation and keep that out of the YouTube videos. All right, so Zephyrhash asks if do you think that YouTube live streaming is now as good or better than Twitch now? Why not? Right. I think functionally it's still slightly behind Twitch, but it is catching up. Functionally means that it's just a bit awkward way that you go live. You sort of go live on a preview screen and then you sort of go live, and it's much more latency on YouTube than it is on Twitch. And yeah, so from a technical perspective, it's slightly below Twitch, but it's really closing a gap. Functionally or feature-wise, in terms of sort of gift subs, since gift subs don't exist on YouTube, they might be added. They've said, well, they are saying that they will be added. Then that's a big question. That's a big discrepancy. Super chat versus bits. Well, bits are just better than super chat, even if the sort of the YouTube Twitch cut is about the same. This is 30% on YouTube, and I suppose it's around 30% on bits as well if you sort of buy it in bulk. So from a feature perspective, YouTube is lagging pretty far behind in terms of sort of the chat experience. But from a content creator, YouTube has this really amazing ability that if I streamed on YouTube, then as soon as the stream was done, it was already be a video on my channel. Because it's already a video on my channel, it already counts all of the live stream views as views, and that means it is much more likely to continue to generate views compared to me taking it on, uploading from Twitch to a random other stream where when I upload it or when I remove it from Twitch, it already has 4,000 views. Then I move it over to my VOD channel and then it has 0 views, and then it gets a couple of hundred views. And it's quite clear that that's a huge deficit or disadvantage from Twitch. So I think that sort of, if we summarize all of those things, it is at least, it's very close to being equally good on YouTube and Twitch, because you have the automatic integration of VODs, and with the live chat already stored and it's on the same YouTube channel and all that stuff. That's the bonus. That's a positive side from YouTube. The negative side is the lack of gift subs and sort of bits and that kind of thing. But the big reason why I don't want to be live streaming on YouTube is actually the fact that if something happens to my YouTube channel, I get a copyright strike, then I can't go live. That means one copyright strike, you lose the ability to go live for a week. And it sucks. So it would have to be sort of separate channels, and if it's separate channels, then the whole synergy thing is a lot less anyway. And there's the whole part about sort of putting all your eggs in one basket. Not because I expect YouTube to suddenly disappear from one day to the next, but it's more along the lines of it's good to sort of have an integration have a presence on Twitch, have a presence on YouTube. If for whatever reason we don't want to use YouTube anymore or something like that, or Twitch, then I still have the other part. And I think that's the pretty much the primary reason why I don't want to consolidate everything at one place, because you just breed in some vulnerabilities to my to my business, and I don't want that. So it would have to be so much better that it would compensate for that increased risk. And discoverability is better lately on YouTube. Yes, primarily because all of my subscribers would see a little blinking icon out on the side when I'm live, and they'll go like, oh, and then they might come in, and I'm pretty sure I would have more views on YouTube. My guess would be twice as many views on YouTube as I do here on Twitch, but I don't think that's it would also sort of flood my channels with old live streams, that kind of thing. So I'm not so keen on it. I've also seen other people like Harris Heller move to YouTube, and he has, in the beginning he had a lot of views on his live streams, but lately it's pretty much tanking. I don't think it was good. I can understand why he did it, but I don't think that he is happy with his view numbers. He went from 1,000 plus per stream to 3 to 500, and that's not good. You're supposed to get more when you move to YouTube, because he did exactly as I would have to do, move it to a secondary channel, and that just doesn't have that discoverability. So that's kind of the reason why I'm gonna stay here where I am unless I get angry with Twitch, or there's something else that makes me just go like, no more Twitch. It's more likely that Twitch pushes me away than it is that YouTube lures me in. That's more likely. Twitch brings new audience to a channel better than YouTube does. No, it doesn't. Okay, I'll address that one. Hi, my Wang. Twitch is a kingmaker system. So what does that mean? That means that it makes kings. That means the top creator in each category will take the majority share. And that's great. You can see it in Factorial right now. There's barely anyone streaming, and everyone is watching Nephrons. That's how it is. If I stream in a small category like Satisfactory, Dyson Sphere Program, Factorial to that kind of extent, then I will get a vast majority of the views, because hey, people go in and say, is there someone streaming Dyson Sphere Program? Oh, there's the guy, he has more views than anyone else, so I'll check that one first. And because of that, there will be sort of an outsized discoverability for the top in the category. And that goes for all categories, and that's why one of the reasons why it's not working for me to stream. Like when I'm streaming Elden Ring, I'm gonna be stream number 100, and no one just happens to click on my stream. Only the people that I bring to the stream will come there. And that's also why, like, if you have a five-person stream, you're not gonna get discovered on Twitch. You can stream all you want on Twitch, and you will never get any discoverability. There will just simply not be anyone who comes by randomly and goes like, this 5-person stream, this is really good. Now it's a 6-person stream. You rely on someone else to go and get that. That's just not how it works. You have to do something out of the ordinary to get people in, and just being live is not it. So discoverability on Twitch is junk unless you're the top 1, 2, 3 in a category. Anyway, let me jump into this question here from Casual Flying. Do you think your channel would be in a different place if the pandemic hadn't happened? It opens a lot of other questions. A lot of could've, would've, should've's. I would, instead of, like, first of all, I have no idea. Obviously, I can't turn back time and undo the pandemic and then try again. If I could, I probably wouldn't do it just for this. I'd probably do it for sort of humanity's sake. But I don't think that I didn't see any particular burst of growth as part of the first period of working from home, the whole shutdown. It wasn't like, I think it was like plus 10%, but those plus 10% could just be because it was April and May, and that's just good months anyway. So I didn't see anything like, whoa, doubling right there. So I think that I'm inclined to say I don't think so, but I would rather turn this question around and say, hey, I've been doing this for 3 years. 2 of those years have been during various degrees of lockdown. That's pretty fucking lucky for me. Like, my old job as a corporate manager, and I've heard about the crap that happened there. People getting fired left and right, and people getting sick, and people being forced to work when sick, and just not taking care of people. And it was just an absolute madness. And me being in that position where I had to sort of take good people that have worked hard for 10, 20 years for the company and go like, well, I have to fire 3, and it's going to be you, and it's going to be you, and it's going to be you. I am so happy that I didn't have to endure that, because that is a shitty situation, just because of the company trimming the fat during a recession. And that's, so from that perspective, instead of saying I don't know if it's going to be different, but I am really happy that it coincided with me exiting the world of corporate management and staying in an indoor office with central air circulation and 800 people, just like, yeah, I probably wouldn't be super happy. And working from home as a manager of a large team working from home, it's really difficult. I mean, I had a tough time. Sort of, a lot of the job was just walking around and talking to people and sort of figuring out if things were sort of okay, and just looking at people, and when they said, yeah, things are fine, and they were clearly not fine, then sort of going a bit deeper. And that's just so difficult over Skype or Slack or Jira comment section or whatever you method of communication you have, Outlook. So I'm really happy that I didn't have to be a manager during this the pandemic, and I'd rather turn it that way. This is the perfect job to have during this kind of thing. I work from home, yeah, not a problem. Don't go out, okay, not a problem. You're gonna deliver entertainment to people who are at home, okay, not a problem. So I think it was fortunate for me, but I don't think it necessarily made a huge impact for the actual for the stream. But then again, how would I know? Okay, so next question. Expectations wise, from 3 years ago when you went full time, what were your expectations for your channel compared to how you think you are faring against them today? Good question. I think that also goes. Okay. I want to make sure that I answer this question correctly, right? So addressing it in the right way. I specifically, when I suddenly found myself being full-time content creator, of course, I'd experienced some growth in my YouTube channel and also a bit on my live streams, that I was sort of looking at it and go like, okay. At first, when you get your first $100 bill from Google, then you're just super proud and go like, oh, I made $100 from ad revenue on my YouTube channel. Yay! The first payout. You're so proud of it. And then it becomes more regular, and it becomes a bit more, and you go like, okay, this is actually, it starts out being like, oh, I got some lunch money. I got some silly money that I can use for just silly things, right? And also because I had a full-time job on the side, well, primarily, and this was on the side. But it was actually a specific encounter or a specific thing that sort of made me look at it in a different way. Like, let me talk sort of mainly from a financial perspective. And that was the fact that I was looking at it and go like, okay, I'm starting to make like between a third and a half of my salary as sort of the things on the side, YouTube and Twitch and Patreon. So like, okay. It actually, I was looking at, if this goes to half, if this goes to 50% of my current salary, and like, in the office talk, it's common to go like, oh, if you had $1 million, what would you do? And I was like, I have the car that I want, so I wouldn't go out and buy a new car. I have the house that I want, so I wouldn't buy a new house. I don't have any expensive hobbies, like, I don't know, motorsports or something like really expensive. I don't travel much, so it's not like I need to save up to do a hell of a lot of travel. So I was like, the money I make as a corporate manager, it's all nice and good, but you end up paying majority in taxes anyway in Denmark. So do I really need it? And then I started looking at, could I make do with less? And that was basically, when it comes to expectations, my expectation was that, and because I managed to get fired in a clever way, then I got a pretty good severance package that sort of said, okay, I have 1 year of runway. And that was sort of what I said to myself, like, okay, I have 1 year to sort of build it up, and maybe even not build it up, but at least I have 1 year to sort of figure out if this is sustainable, both financially and also motivation wise and all that kind of thing. I mean, so many people say that once a hobby becomes your work, you don't have a hobby anymore. And so expectation wise was financially, and motivation wise was, after a year, is it sustainable? And can I sort of live, now that the severance package sort of has run its course? And well, I'm still here, and the answer is yes. So that was kind of the main question that I asked myself was, and that was my main expectation. I I've had some aspirations in terms of looking at other content creators and go like, it would be cool to be at that level. And that's not looking at the largest content creators, because that's not my ambition, and I don't think was it like shoot for the moon, and or aim for the moon and hit the stars? Like, you're a really shitty astronaut if that's what happens. So no, that's not how it works. You or rocket engineer, probably more than the astronaut. It's more about looking at content creators who are sort of firmly established in their domain and go like, it would be awesome to just be able to start a stream and just know that there would be 300 to 500 people, or 200 to 500 people, or 200 to 400 people even, just tuning in when I played stuff, and being able to sort of like salaries go like this as self-employed. So it's nice to know that even the valleys are still paying the bills, and then trying to funnel all the tops into investments, so you can hopefully have some kind of a passive income instead of sort of always be relying on on active income, which can sort of always be cancelled, because that's always a threat. Me saying something stupid could happen. So that's kind of the expectation. My expectation was, and I don't know if that was, I don't think so much expectation, but more aspiration. My aspiration was being able to start a stream and then having between 200 and 400 people tuning in, and be able to sort of make a comfortable living off of this. Remember, there's also a difference between sort of in terms of the financial side. I left a job at a pretty high level of my career, and I have pretty damn big responsibility and a big team, and I'd been making a really good career out of it. So it's not like comparing me to a 18-year-old with no education who lives in a parent's basement. My expectations are different because my alternatives are different. If you live in your parents' basement and 18 years old and you don't have any prospects, then you don't need much, because your alternative is getting a minimum wage job. My alternative is getting a consultancy gig, which is a hell of a lot better paid than a minimum wage job. So my expectations are also different. I'm also 42, so I'm at where I should be peak of career wise. So it's also like, and I live in a goddamn expensive country. So that's kind of that's kind of the long story to this, about expectations and aspirations. And I think I'm pretty happy about where we are now. I mean, there's always, every time you sort of hit your target, you go like, 500 would be nice, right? The part I really want to be able to do is play games like Bloodborne or God of War or that kind of thing, and get more than 100 and a smidge. And it's impressive numbers, because it's completely outside of sort of the norm of where we are. But gotta have aspirations for what we are aiming for. So Sephiroth asks, what made you decide to stream in the first place? Stream in the first place, or content creation in the first place? For me, I think that the first thing that, of course, I got into content creation, and as part of content creation, I wanted to do live stream. The first live stream was actually a 24-hour stream. I think that was my first stream. I'm not 100% sure. That was my first stream on Twitch, at least. Yeah, I think I did that. Yeah, I'm pretty sure, because I didn't have a Discord, and I know Bellostack and Prime Dead set up that for me while I was streaming, while I got bot attacked and all sorts of crazy things. So that was 53 months ago. I don't know how many months ago that was. But why did I start streaming is... I think why did I start streaming is because it's a natural part of content creation. which is a kind of a boring answer. So why did I start content creation is, I think, a better and more interesting question. So I'll answer that. I'm a good politician. I'll take your question and I'll ignore it and answer a question I'd rather answer. So why did I start the content creation? So this is a bit of a when my ex-wife told me she wanted a divorce, I have maybe zooming even further back than that. Then I've tried deliberately having a philosophy that says that life is 10% what happens to you, 90% how you respond to it. And of course, it's easy when life is easy to say that. And if you really have a tough life, then it's really difficult to say that. But if I look at my peers and people around me, I see people who are extremely privileged and just they're whiny little bitches. And then I see people who are just having a really tough time. Work, money, ex-spouses, kids with issues, all that things. And they're just cheerful. And you go like, yeah, so it's not an arbitrary thing that makes people happy or sad. It's about mainly how you respond to life, what life throws at you. So I've been trying to sort of live that and remind me of it. So when people, when your partner in life for 10 years, we've been together for 10 years, says basically, I decided to try some different dick and now I kind of like that and I don't want you anymore. Then you can kind of have a meltdown and you can be bitter and you can be sad and they can be making your whole world fall apart, or you can do as I did. And I went like, well, there's been some things that I've been kind of wanting to do, but I couldn't quite do because, well, we are a team and that didn't fit with the team. So those were three things. I wanted to buy a Tesla because I always wanted a Tesla, and it was just too expensive to buy a Tesla for sort of the family economics. It was just a toy for me, and it just wasn't justifiable for us as a couple to buy a Tesla for me. So couldn't do that, but hey, I could do that. Then second thing was Tinder. I'd heard so much about it, and it only sort of came up after I had a girlfriend, fiance, wife, so never tried it. So that was something I wanted to try. And then the third one was start a YouTube channel, because it's one of those things where I remember I'm watching YouTube and then I go like, oh man, that's so cool. In another life, I would love to do that. And it just becomes, at some point in your life, you realize that there are things that you're never going to achieve because they're just so far out of reach. And you go like, yep, that's not going to happen. In another life, I'll have a YouTube channel. And then suddenly the opportunity presented itself. I was like, no, I'm just going to get a YouTube channel. And then, so those three things, I still have the Tesla, I'm still on Tinder, and I'm still here on my YouTube channel. So those were the three things. And then she was like, are you okay? And I was like, yeah, I'm good. So that's kind of the story of why I just started content creation in the first place, or at least when I did, or the trigger for it. So Baked Beans is asking, too much work. What would you say is the good average amount of time you would spend on a single YouTube video? I don't know. There you go. Next question. No. I would rather sort of say it in a different way. My usual daily routine is that I spend about 4 hours in the morning for the daily, or 4 hours when I wake up on my daily video. So that's generally the amount of time that I spend. Sometimes more, sometimes less, but generally I'd say it's about 4 hours. And that includes sort of, let's say, in a Factorio satisfactory video, first you sort of have to know what you want, and then I start a notepad with scripting. I just go like, what am I going to tell? What is the story I want to tell? What is the sequence? Then sort of setting something up, maybe preparing something. For example, for Factorio, I do a lot of preparation. I write a lot less for Factorio because I'm so comfortable with what I want to do. I just basically take note, like, okay, mention this one and do this and this. But for satisfactory videos, or for example Dyson Sphere program videos or anything like that, I spend a lot more time on sort of what is the story in the sequence I want to do. Then I start setting it up. For example, the reason why I take my hourly save games for most games is because then I sort of go in and say, okay, I can use this save here after 1 hour of the stream, and then another one, and then I can talk something about here, build something, then I can jump forward to the next hour later, and then I can talk from this, and then sort of preparing a new save games for that, and then you start the recording, run through that. I very rarely do more than one take for like Let's Plays and stuff. Because I also want it to be more natural. I know that sometimes when there's been a Windows update and the microphone isn't working, and I record a whole episode and it's 42 minutes long of Factorio, and then I load it into my editing software and I realize there's no sound. Then when I do exactly the same again, it's 28 minutes. And then I go like, those 28 minutes are probably higher quality than the 42 minutes. It's just really difficult to sort of, yeah. And I've been sort of like, okay, should I just play things and then zoom back and then play it again? And then I went like, no, I'm not. But the extreme case of that is actually when it comes to my 1 minute Dark Souls videos. That is extreme. I think I do the boss runs about 20 times. Just to get like the best little 2-second snippets of the attack perfectly dodged, perfectly parried, perfectly something, and then cut it together. Like, okay, attempt 17. So after I kill the boss, I go like, okay, attempt 7. There was a good roll and a perfect transition to phase 2. Okay, restart, reload game, try again. Fight. Okay, attempt number 8. Good double swing avoidance, and then afterwards load the whole thing in and just cut it down to 1 minute. It's a fun exercise. So yeah, on the whole, too much work. But the thing is, with those videos, it was more like 20 hours of work to put into that, and that was just not worth it, because it was basically like spending sort of cutting down on all the other videos just to find time to put in an hour or two on this every day, and then just welcome home, putting it out there, and then not. I got some good response, but it was good quality response. It was not good quantity response. So I'd like to do more of those kind of videos, but it's hard to find the time and the motivation to do it when I could be doing other things that are sort of feel that adds more value for money, for time, not money, for time. I get in this session here way too many good questions. By all means, bring them into my normal streams, because I love just blah while we are coloring a gigantic battery factory. Then we can talk about watershed moments in career as content creator. You know, that kind of thing, right? Are there any particular moments of the last 2 years that you look back on as watershed moments in this part of your career? Yes, there's one particular moment, and I know that some of you probably remember that. I was streaming Factorio, and then at the end of the stream, I sort of looked around for who to raid, and I saw Day 9 was playing. Was it Dyson? It must have been Dyson Sphere. Oh, it was Dyson Sphere Program. It was Dyson Sphere Program because it wasn't very long ago. So at the end of my Dyson Sphere Program stream, I was looking for who to raid, and I saw that Day 9 was playing it as well. And then I've been following Day 9 for, at this point, like 12 years, like all the way from watching. I remember he's the reason why I found out how to watch Justin TV, the precursor to Twitch. And I watched this Day 9 daily. And I remember when, before episode 100, I remember the Day 9 dailies from like, I don't think it's exactly single digits, but it's pretty early in the career. So anyway, I rate him and I go, "Way," and then he recognizes me, and he's like, oh, and he starts building like an absolute disaster monstrosity of a belt spaghetti thing in honor of me, because he knows I absolutely hate it. And then he explains to his viewers about who I am, and I do the best Factorio content, and I'm the true Factorio royalty. And I was like, that was a watershed moment, literally. And then he sort of remembers that I release Factorio masterclasses on Thursdays. I was like, that means he's a viewer. right? That means he's actually viewing it. If he remembers that on Thursdays I release Factorial masterclasses, that means he's actually watching them. That doesn't, it's not like, oh yeah, I know of him, but if he knows my schedule for when I release it, it means that it's more than just like, oh yeah, I think I've heard of you in that sphere over there. So that was really, when you get recognition from the people who have been your inspiration to get into content creation, because that's Day9 and Christopher Odd. Those are my two sort of, those are the two where I looked at and go like, it is possible to to be a content creator and not be a sellout and be like serious rambling and just yeah, not be over the top. Just be honest about the work you do and just make a living off of it. Those are the two people that I've been looking at always and go like, yeah, those are the ones I've been looking up to, and those are the ones that I've been inspired by. Because I've been sort of like, but YouTuber, yeah, we all know how a YouTuber is. That's not me. But I'm looking at people who made it and who are successful and go like, yeah, if they can do it, that's the kind of thing I want to do. So that's also that was definitely my the one moment where I really felt like I was so proud. It was just absolutely unbelievable how proud I was at that moment. Yeah, Day9 from StarCraft 2 and not much after. Yep, that's also exactly, and it's exactly the point I'm making, is that these are both people who made their claim to fame on one game, but that one game is not going to last forever, and they made a very gradual, very conscious transition out of that one game into things that were related or tangential, and then sort of transition from there to sort of being other things. And that's also what I've been doing for the last 2 years, if in case no one has noticed. So, a question from Jeff. You've cultivated quite a mature community here on Twitch relative to some Twitch norms. Was it deliberate? And are you proud of that achievement? Yes and yes. It is very much a deliberate. I'm here to throw softballs. Nice. It's a nice softball, but it's a good question, because again, sort of it relates to my previous answers about sort of the people I've been watching and the people I've been sort of inspired by. They're the ones who've influenced my way of doing content, and I've been making some conscious choices. Now, I have an MBA, and a big part of that MBA is your go-to-market strategy, and my deliberate go-to-market strategy is to find an audience that I can relate to, and I can't make relatable content for teens or preteens. I just can't. And even if I could, I probably wouldn't. So who are my people? My people are software developers and engineers, and they are in their 30s or 40s. And then anyone sort of, that's the core audience. So let's make content that caters for this, because it's also the stuff that I know. It's kind of the same references we have. It's the same sort of analogies, and that's why sometimes I go on management rants, and it's something we can relate to, because it's the life we have. And analogies, for example, when I did my masterclass on city blocks, it was natural to explain it from a service-oriented architecture perspective, because I expected that a lot of my audience would actually just go like, that makes sense, and then so that's it's very much deliberate. That it's deliberate from two perspectives. One is maybe incidental, but it's deliberate from the perspective that this is what I can relate to. So it's kind of who sticks around because they can see someone relatable on the other side of the camera. The other part is also that it is a very good audience to have. And if you have any doubts, look at the top of the chat. And if you look at many chats in Twitch, it is very rare to see people just consistently having red numbers in the bits donations, and especially in January mid-month. People here are super generous, and I really appreciate it. And I think that's also a matter of sort of the selection of the people, because let's say my archetypical engineer software developer has more disposable income than a 12-year-old who watches screaming Minecraft YouTubers. So it's a better audience. It's a higher quality audience to have, and that's also a part of sort of the business side of things. If I was doing content for preteens, I would have to sort of do a lot of merch and a lot of sort of going to local malls and just hanging out and signing things, and because that's the kind of way that you can make a living off of that, or getting more sponsorships. But if you have an audience who have more liquidity and more sort of disposable income, then I don't need to do that, because there's a inherent I don't know if there's an inherent generosity. I think it's more like there's a more deliberate choice of how to spend money. I don't know how many times I've seen comments on Patreon like, hey, I watched you more than I watched Netflix, so here's $10 a month. And then it's like, yeah, that's a very deliberate thing. While if you're younger and maybe don't have as much disposable income, then you go like, well, I can watch it for free, so I'm going to watch it for free. And that's part of it as well. That it is also, I mean, I want to have conversations. Like, remember that chat where we talked about how much water you have to put in whiskey to actually make a difference, and it went deep into the chemistry of it, and people were digging up articles. Now that is amazing from this kind of chat. This is kind of the stuff I enjoy, instead of just going memes all the way through. So it's very deliberate, and I'm very happy about it. So thank you, all of you. Also the ones who do not fit into the my stereotypical persona that I described. Yeah, poggers. Yeah. So Marco is asking, how do your children view your current career? Do you think it might affect their future education choices and interests? They are pleasantly uninterested. They don't really care. They enjoy the fact that I have a lot of flexibility, and they appreciate it, the fact that I can always just come pick them up, or they can always drive them places, and they appreciate that. And the whole sort of like the street cred of my dad is a YouTuber kind of wears off after a while, and it's not really something they don't particularly care about. When I sort of talk to them about what they want to do when they grow up, like, for context, I have a daughter, she's 12, and I have a son, he's 9. So they my daughter has specifically said that I've sort of teased her and asked, oh, so you wanna be a YouTuber when you grow up? And she was like, nah, I think I'd rather have a real job like mom. So I don't think that it really makes a bit difference. My son, he has like really like naive ways of thinking of what he wants. He just want to do something with animals, and then it's more like me influencing them, because I'd like them to be engineers, because of course you be engineers. But I honestly don't want them to be stuck in a 9 to 5. And that's the part, right? I think that a good education where you learn a lot of things, whatever it is, but it should be engineer. But whatever it is, then and then go from there and do something that is self-realizing. And that's what I want to help them with. And that's really, it's more actually me that potentially could influence them. Like, first of all, I want them to get an education, because you want to get an education, and then you can sort of go from there. It doesn't really matter what kind of education, but I think it's important to get that education, because it's just something that pays dividends through the rest of your life, not just in terms of just salary that you can make, but more in terms of sort of awareness about how the world works, and learning how to gather new information and process process information and make sort of more educated opinions about things. And I think that's really valuable. Plus, it's really the formative years when you're studying. So definitely, I want my kids to do that. But I'm kind of like, if my son wants to do something with traveling the world and discovering animals, which is not an uncommon thing for a 9-year-old who doesn't want to play Fortnite is the dreams. Then I'm the one who says like, what are the odds of you get that one job at BBC where they pay you to travel the world and make and find animals? There's literally one guy doing that on BBC, or probably two maybe, but that's it. And not a lot of other channels, and it is infinitesimally small chance of actually landing a job like that. But
a resplendent offering.
running a YouTube channel and then traveling the world and explaining animals and doing that, that's totally doable, and it's a very valuable business case, right, or sort of career path, and it's a much more likely career path than going through, okay, I'm going to study biology, I'm going to get a job at the zoo, and then I'm going to do, and then or a TV station, and they will. Nah, it's much more likely that you'll be a content creator and do that yourself, and then make the make the income from your content creation. And that's kind of that's kind of me just trying to sort of imagine that if you really want to do that, maybe there is a different way that includes like being a content creator, because I think that's much more likely that you can do that in. So yeah. What I also do, also another thing I want to do for my kids is, if it's possible, I want to make sure that they never have to make choices because they have to make the money. And of course, maybe that's something we all want to dream about because for our kids, and I want them to make their own money, but I also want them to not be sort of forced into a specific path because of the money. And I feel that a lot of my career, and it's my own damn fault, the part where you get your first job, you get your first apartment, you get a better job, you get a car, and then the expenses and the salary just keeps following up, and in the end you make a lot of money, but it's all gone at the end of the month because you've just dialed up your expenses sort of correspondingly, and that also means that I could never go. I mean, I wanted to do my own thing, whatever my own thing was, for a long time, but I didn't dare. I didn't dare take the leap because I had to pay the bills. And I really want to make sure that my kids somehow don't need to get stuck in something because of monetary constraints. And I don't know how that is. It's partially raising them, and it's partially about maybe being able to provide something, right? Gunther saying, do you have one piece of advice that you stuck with you that you try to pass on to your children or anyone else that will listen?
Our illustrious champion returns.
It is the one thing I said earlier, and I'll just briefly reiterate it. It's the part about life is 10% what happens to you and 90% what you make of it. And I don't know where the source of that comes from, but I think it's just, it's so true. It's so true, and especially as my daughter is 12 and she's approaching the difficult teen years, and it's just so easy to get into sort of a negative spiral. Oh, the whole world is against me and nothing works and I can't do, and I'm inadequate in all sorts of ways, and that is also like it's a self-fulfilling prophecy to a large extent. And positivity is just such a powerful force. Almost as powerful as the force. There we go. So I think that part, like thinking about how you respond to things instead of what happens, because you can't always control what happens. Rarely you can control what happens, and luck plays a big part of it. But you can respond. You can to at least try to control how you respond to it and find the best of the worst situation. Which is a quote from Darkest Dungeon. It's a game about making the best of a bad situation. Philip, any secret meaning behind your nickname? It's my name. It's my name. That's it. It's it is a family name that's been in my family for 200-300 years. So it's just been cropping up as sort of a middle name here and there, and then my mom decided that I should have that as my last name, and so it's also the part that my first name is Christian, and about half of males around my age in Denmark named Christian. So that means no matter where you are, you will never be called Christian, and it's not common to abbreviated Chris, and I hate it. So the thing is, you will always be named something else, and you rather want to take control of it. And therefore, Nilaus, that's unique. If anyone knows who that is, it's going to be me. So, I mean, if you heard something about Nilaus, then that's me. Ludicrous Wanderer, how long do you see yourself doing content creation? Is there any date that you'd like to retire by? Any long-term goals regarding your business? That's a big question. How long do you see yourself doing content creation? Good question. So the first thing is, at any point during my life, if I had looked 5 years ahead, there's also a question about my 5-year plan. I've actually checked this at any point during my adult life. If I had looked 5 years ahead and I had sort of projected it, I would have projected doing the same as I do today, just 20% more. That would be sort of how you project into the future. And at no point has there ever been like a 5-year period where that has actually been true. Like every sort of 3 to 5 years, something radically different has happened. I moved abroad, I studied abroad, I got married, I had kids, I changed jobs, I moved, those big things that change your life. And that's wow, thank you. I'm just interrupting myself here. Thank you, Chef Plays Games, for the 5 gift subs, and then BGOP with another 5 gift subs. Well, gonna sleep early. Have some more bits for the 3 years. Thank you so much. That's very kind of you. See what I said about the kindness. So back to that. So how long do I see myself doing content creation? For the time being, until I don't enjoy it anymore or I get cancelled. That's basically how long I intend to do it. Maybe I have a tough time seeing myself doing content creation at 60 or 70, but who knows? Is there a date where you'd like to retire by? I actually consider myself retired. Like financially irresponsible, retire early. Isn't that the FIRE concept? So I am living the dream in the FIRE concept. I really don't consider this work because I do really consider that I've retired from business, having a job. I don't have a job. I run my business, but the job is, I don't really feel that it is a job. Of course, I have obligations and things I have to do, but it's just so enjoyable and so flexible that I don't consider it a job. So I really do consider myself retired in a large extent. And long-term goals for my business, well, if we're saying sort of from a financial perspective, then I'd like to be able to put enough aside from my content creation business so that if it stops one day, then it's not a problem. If it's for whatever reason, content creation becomes illegal, Twitch and YouTube gets taken down, gaming companies decide that you are no longer allowed to do Let's Plays unless you have a license, and whatever, a million things. I get cancelled because I'm an idiot. And then I would like to at that point go like, well, I can live off of the interest of my investments. It's an ambitious goal, but it's the idea is that I think that's the healthy way to think of the content creation, because it is like this, and you can sort of hit a boom time, and then during the boom time you don't buy a new house and do it. You take all that more than what you need and you put it into investments so that it's for a rainy day, so that gradually I will hopefully move my passive income, be a bigger and bigger part of my personal economy. That's the goal. And at that point, well, then I don't need to. And honestly, at this point, I don't need to stream 6 days a week. But every time I'm like, yeah, well, what the hell am I going to do otherwise? I mean, then I'm going to sit here playing Satisfactory and not have a camera on. Why would I do that? And then I stream. And then it's like, okay, but then I would just play Bloodborne because I love that game. Well, why not just stream it? It might not be for a big audience, but hey, let's stream it. So that from that perspective, I don't feel that I don't feel that I'm forced to stream or to create the content I do. I just really like doing it, so I keep doing it. And when I stop enjoying doing it, then I'll probably cut down on it and start other projects, and maybe I'll just do one video a week and one stream a week or something like that if I sort of lose interest, or sort of gradually, or I find some other interest that needs to take the same time. So I don't have any, like, the long-term goal is financially independent or irresponsible. Yeah, it's the same. I'd like to see more content on how you manage your channel, the data analysis you perform, how you decide to continue a series, how you judge if your content is successful or not. Yeah, that's more like a wish, but the question in itself, like on how I do that. Every time you upload a new video, at whatever time it is, like the age of this one, YouTube will tell you comparatively this video against the other last 10 videos, how is it placed. So if you upload a good video, then go, okay, this might be number 2 out of 10, and then you can sort of look on it and go like, okay, so what are the top 10 last videos? And if I do that, for example, right now, I look at it, then the top one was, for the last 10 videos, automated artillery perimeter defense, not surprising. And then number 2 is the one I released Sunday, yesterday. New and improved science lab setup with robots. And then number 3 and 4 are also Factorio. So that means number 1 through 4 of the last videos more successful are Factorio videos. Okay. And then number 5 is the Satisfactory. Pure copper is surprisingly good. And then there are then there are some Captain of Industry, and then it's on number 6 and 7, and then a Satisfactory on number 8, and a Captain of Industry on number 9, and then the channel update on number 10. And this is after, after one day, and it ranges from the top one has 13,000 views, and the last one has 5.2 thousand views. So that's kind of the range. And if you sort of, when I look at this, I go like, okay, good. Factorio is still performing well, despite the fact that we are very far into the series. Like if I can get more than 10,000 views in 24 hours, that's kind of the benchmark for me of that's a good video. It's not because I expect that from all my videos, but that's my baseline in terms of if I did a Factorio video, that's what I could expect. So if I do something else, then I can kind of tell myself that, or I could have done a Factorio video and got 10,000 views. Of course, some videos keep accruing over time, and that also has to be catered for. But the majority of videos, they get the views in the first, 5 days or something, and then it just tapers off. And that's kind of, so why did I stop my Captain of Industry after 5 episodes and not after 6, 7, 8, 9, 10? And it kind of 2 reasons. One of them was because I had to do a lot of research for the next episode because I hadn't played ahead. So I had to play ahead and then re-record. So I was like, okay, this is going to take extra time to make the next episode, and then compare it to how the previous ones were performing, and they're performing quite poorly. And you can always expect that the next one in the series is performing slightly worse than the previous one. Generally, the way I look at it, if I make a new Let's Play series, number 1 is going to be index 100. So if this gets 100 views, then number 2 gets 40 to 50 views, index 40 to 50, and then it sort of goes down to maybe like, let's say the second one goes 50, and then it goes like 40, and then 35, and then 30, and then sort of there's a long tail of just continuously that's just how many views this video gets. So for example, my Factorio videos, it looks like they get a bit more than 10,000 views on the first day. Awesome, that's very, very good. If it starts declining, then I might go like, I'd need to do something else or stop playing that. And it's that's kind of how I'm looking at it. And if I do, it's also why you will see a lot of YouTube channels doing. No, it's also why you will see a lot less YouTube channels doing longer Let's Plays compared to what they did 5 years ago. Because it's just not very profitable to commit yourself to 30 episodes because you know the majority will be for number 1. Of course, the fact that you upload episode 28 means that someone comes in and goes, ooh, 28, let me start from number 1. So of course, number 28 also generates view for number 1. But if I look at something like Vanilla Done Right, which is interestingly enough, it's a very popular old series. I can just search on Vanilla Done Tight. No, not that one. It's there. And then I sort by views. Then the first video of that series has 670,000 views. That's good. The second one has 266,000 views, so that's about 40%. And then it goes to 200,000 views, then it goes to 173, then it goes to 155. Like, still very impressive numbers, but it's also very clear that the graph is, like, it goes up and it goes, tapers off. And if I look at the lowest ones, like the last one in the series, they are at 12,000 views, which is less than I would get in the first day if I made a new video of a new series. So you can see how rapidly, that's episode 53. So of course, episode 53 is a long series, but it just shows how much it just completely tapers off into nothing. And therefore, that's kind of one of the important parts of evaluating it. And what I really wanted to try to do with Satisfactory was try to decouple it from a sequential part. Like, I can still give them numbers, but I don't want to make them feel like they are. I don't want to make it feel like you can't watch the one about pure copper without already having watched all the other ones. Therefore, I call it something like pure copper, and then afterward I call it number 19. So you can watch it, and I don't put in the thumbnail, I don't put number 19 in there. It's kind of just, yeah. It's, yeah. I think that it's just the way that it works for me, and I do like a long series because I do think that that's where I have my strength, and that's also why I stream so much on Twitch, because this gives me the chance to put a lot of effort into these games, and then I can take and make some YouTube videos, hopefully, for the content that's there. Does YouTube Premium viewers help any measurable way? Yes, very much so. It's a good question. I just check. 70% is ad revenue, and 71%, and then 27% is YouTube Premium. And then what's the last 2%? That's memberships on YouTube. Very small part. But it's, if you think about it, like 70-30 or 75-25 in split of the premium versus ad revenue. And also note that I have lower ad revenue than most because I don't do mid rolls and I don't do end rolls. I only do beginning of the video. Most would also put videos after 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, whatever, but I don't. Right, so never afraid to fail on games. Well, I think that I've actually been considering that I should have some things written above the camera, reminders for me. And one of them is that failing is also entertainment. And because sometimes sometimes I think that I need to be good at a game, and I generally do. But you're not watching me play Sekiro because I'm the best Sekiro player in the world. That's someone else. Maybe the guy who did it blindfolded. But you're hopefully watching it for all the other things, but you'd also like to not be super frustrated watching someone play. So I think it should be somewhere where ideally I would be a bit better than the average audience. That would be, I think, ideal, so that you don't get frustrated by my playstyle, and you can go like, oh, that's actually really well done, or like, oh, I did that one a bit better, or he did this one a bit better. I think that's like the perfect part. Of course, also being way better than you because you've never played it. That's also an option, but I should not be below average on the games I play, because then you really have to offer something on top of the gameplay, like being funny, and that's kind of not my thing. So good looking, also not my thing. So I guess I have to rely on being good at it. So yeah, but I can't be the best at it either. So there's some sweet spot there that I can aim for. Here, thoughts about hiring an editor for your YouTube videos. All right, so I've been thinking about it a lot, and it would be super cool to just not having to bother with edits. But I also have to ask myself, like, what is it I want? Because if I look at let's see. Okay, so if what should we say? I think it's Martin Setopants, or whatever his name is, right? I see there's a big overlap between my channel and his channel. So he makes very few videos, but they're highly edited. In that case, it would make a lot of sense to have an editor where I play the game and then hand you 20 hours of raw footage and pay something, and then you whip it up into something cool, crisp, and sparks and memes flying around and all that crap, and transitions and sound effects and all that stuff. But that's not the style I'm going for, no matter what. And if I was taking my raw video and then shipping it off to an editor, I think that it would be way too much work to get the style right in that I want. Like, of course there could be things, and the stuff that I'd really want to do was be stream highlights. Like, let's say what it would be super awesome would be able to play a game on a stream and then have someone take the 4 hours and just smash it into 15 to 20 minutes of highlights and stuff, maybe fun stuff, maybe sort of telling the story and just summarizing, and just like time lapses, fast cuts, like split screens, all those things. It would be super cool, but it's going to take a hell of a long time to get that settled, and it's actually going to be super expensive. It would probably be about $200 per 4-hour stream. It's what I'm looking at, that kind of cost. And I'm like, I don't make any kind of money in that regard. Plus, if it comes to the YouTube videos, then I don't do a lot of editing, and maybe I should do more. Yes, probably. But on the other hand, if I like, my problem with the daily videos is that I do them in the morning, upload them, they go live at 4 o'clock. That does not cater for having an editor. You can't do that. So I have to be editing for a video next week and then have the editor and then come back and iterate and all that stuff. And I just don't think it makes a lot of sense. I'd like to have someone who's an editor, but it would, like, editing stream highlights, for example, would kind of have to be someone who was watching anyway and then be paid for doing that transition and sort of have an idea about my style, because it would not be about a lot of memes flying around, but there would still be like some fancy editing and knowing with things like it shouldn't just be 20 minutes of fails. It should also be the cool stuff. So kind of finding the balance of making sure that it's a narrative, but how do I ship it off to some random video editor? Here's my stream, make a highlight of it, to someone who's watching, who has never seen Dyson Sphere program before, and now they're asked to make a 20-minute highlight. Yeah, they can do a Overwatch highlight, a Valorant highlight, because yeah, he shot someone, he won, yay, that goes into the highlight. But here it's like, what are the main stories? What are the labor that we want to compress to illustrate that it is a laborious activity? And that's the part that's really, really difficult to articulate and outsource. And I don't want to do it myself, and I can't see the effort of getting it outsourced being worth it time and money wise. It is so expensive that it has to be good. Right, I think that we've covered a lot of the good questions, and I hope that it was interesting. I mean, I'm really surprised at how many people tuned in for this. Maybe you're all just going like, I hear Dyson's Sphere program in the background, so he must be starting playing it soon, right? Thursday I'm going to be playing it. Thank you everyone for joining. I will hope to see you in the coming days. I will also be taking some of the other questions that we didn't talk about. You're welcome to also ask them in all of my streams. It's super fun to be allowed to just ramble on, and especially games like Satisfactory are really great for that, because the gameplay is rather slow sometimes, and while setting up foundations or setting up yet another battery module, it's nice to sort of have something to talk about. So by all means, keep sharing that. Thank you everyone for joining. Thank you for your donations and generosity in general, and specifically today as well, and I will see you tomorrow.